Before I get to my guest, I want to read a couple of things for you to set this thing up because, I feel like Enoch in the past 3 days, what you has been revealing to me about this electric universe thing and what actually happened with Siding Spring when it came in close approach to Mars. So we're going to be talking about those things and what is the possible outcome of a close approach of this planetary body, this system that's coming. It's out there, folks. There's no question, no debate about that. The science shows it. Gill has been able to show it in his models and in his layout of the timelines of events in the Bible where this could have possibly have come through. It explains a lot, as well as evidence we can see on the Earth, as well as on other planets, that there's been something that's come through that's had a discharge with and a reaction with our planetary bodies that's perturbed planets in our solar system. And so we're going to be talking about that today. And I believe that there's places in the Bible, places in the book of Enoch, and we're going to be talking about Enoch a little bit here, that I believe addresses this. So let me just start in chapter 40 in the book of Enoch, where he says, "And after that I saw thousands of thousands, and 10,000s times 10,000. I saw a multitude beyond the number and reckoning who stood before Yahuwah Zavaot. And on four sides of Yahuwah Zavaot I saw four presences, different from those that sleep not. And I learnt their names, for the angel went with me and made known to me their names and showed me all the hidden things." Now Enoch was shown everything that was going to happen from the beginning to the end. Okay? So keep that in mind. "And I heard the voices of those four presents as they uttered praises before Yahuwah of glory. The four voices, bless Yahuwah Zavaot forever and ever. And the second voice I heard, bless the chosen one and the chosen ones who hang upon Yahuwah Zavaot. And in the third voice I heard, pray for and intercede for those who dwell on the earth and supplicate in the name of Yahuwah Zavaot. And I heard the fourth voice, fending off the Satans and forbidding them to come before Yahuwah of spirits to accuse them who dwell on the earth. And after that I asked the angel of Shalom, who went with me, to show me everything that is hidden. Who are these four presences, and which have I seen those words which I have heard written down? And he said to me, and this is Michael, the merciful and long-suffering. And second, who is set over the diseases and all the wounds of the children of men, is Raphael. And the third, who is over the powers, is Gabriel. And the fourth, who is set over the repentance and those who inherit eternal life, is Penuel." Now, Penuel is an interesting name, folks, because that in Hebrew means the face of El, the face of the Creator. "And these are the four angels of Yahuwah Zavaot, and the four voices I heard these days." Now listen to this. Going on to, because he was shown the sun, moon, and the stars and all their revolutions. But then he says here in chapter 43, "And I saw other lightnings and the stars of heaven, and how he called them by all their names, and they hearkened unto him. And I saw how they are weighed in a righteous balance according to their proportions of light. And I saw the width of their spaces and the day of their appearing, and how their revolution produces lightning." And how their revolutions produces lightning. Okay? "And I asked the angel who went and showed me what was hidden, and what are these things? And he said unto me, Yahuwah Zavaot has showed you their parabolic meaning their parable. And these are the names of the set apart ones who dwell on the earth and believe in the name of Yahuwah Zavaot forever and ever." And I also saw another phenomenon where, in regarding to lightnings, how some of the stars arise and become lightnings and cannot part with their new form. Now that's really interesting that Enoch was shown these things, because I believe, and this is a new debate that's really come to be pretty much a fact from what I see, the electric universe theory. Folks, I want to introduce Gill Broussard, who is a researcher, an astronomer, and someone who has put together a vast amount of data and models showing that this Planet 7x is there and will come into our solar system and will have an effect on this planet. Gill, welcome to Code Search.
Well, thank you, Jonathan. It's a pleasure be on your show today.
Yeah, brother. A lot of people want to know: is it going to be this year or next year? I know that as a researcher, we got to have a margin of error. When you're calculating, you may have to recalibrate. So, what are you thinking? Your best guess and estimate? Is it going to be this year?
Well, if it's a scientific estimate, I give an estimate from 2013 to about 2030, somewhere in there. Like if you can predict a window of time that it would come in, especially if like it has 360 to 400 year orbit, and you can hit it within a 10-year orbit window without even seeing it, that would be hitting the target zone compared to science, in the science realm. Now, the Bible tends to narrow it down even further if we look at the biblical narrative. If we were to ask ourselves a simple question, would the Almighty tell us when, or would He leave us hanging in midair about this arrival of the planet? Well, there is a quote in the Bible where He says He'll give us a sign in the heaven. But I believe there is also another sign. He says for us to prepare food and supplies on a Sabbath and a Jubilee.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, if we look at the pre-signs before the arrival of this planet, which is CO6, you're looking at CO3, 4, and 5. Well, CO3 is economic collapse. CO4 is famine that's talked about in war.
Yeah.
So I would think that His people are warned already, or prepared if they listen to His instructions and put food and supplies up for a Sabbath or Jubilee. So I would say that the arrival of this planet would be probably just the Passover after the Jubilee is finished now. Yeah. We didn't know if it was going to be the Sabbath or the Jubilee, but it looks like the Sabbath is clear. We don't have a sighting of it. And so there's a higher probability of it showing up this next March or April. And that's if man has got the Jubilee and the Sabbath correct.
I was just about to say, Gill, because I've been following what the Orthodox do in Israel, and I do know that last year that the Temple Institute was talking about Adar Bet, or the extra month that they add into the year when you have a leap year. Now they were doing that last year. Then again, I see this year Rabbi Glazerson doing videos where he's talking about Adar Bet. And so I was thinking, wow, what's going on here? You can't have Adar Bet twice in a row. So I discovered that there's even a division, even in the Judaism, of agreement. Some cannot agree that we were in a Shabbatical year, and some think that we're in the Jubilee. So it's just like in Christian bodies, that there's division on when we are and things like that. So they don't even know themselves absolute. And I do know this, in the past few years when they're calling it for Rosh Hashanah going by Hallel, they've been wrong by 24 hours or so. So there is discrepancies in some man's measurements and documenting of time. So if the Jubilee is next year, so it would postpone this thing or looking for, or the calculations of it by at least whatever that time is. Is that correct, Gill?
Correct. If we stick with the biblical narrative and don't allow man to make any changes, in Psalms, when Isaiah is speaking, this was during the time of Hezekiah, when the shadow went backwards.
Right.
The calendar year changed from 360 to 365 and a quarter days. And Isaiah writes in Psalms, because Psalms is actually, I think, 4 or 5 books. It wasn't all written by David. And Isaiah writes down that now the seasons are attached to the sighting of the new moon. So that's what we're supposed to be following, not Helia, that
Yeah.
that rabbi that changed the method and
Yeah.
going to a straight counting method,
Yeah.
because they're not using a lunar and waiting for the ripeness of the barley as it's been instructed in the Torah, because you're not supposed to use old grain. So so there is a discrepancy, even the way people look at the moon, whether or not it's if you look at the old way of looking at a new moon, it was the first sliver of light, and there's an argument over that even. So if we have things right, and that's the only thing we can do, because we didn't live through it, we don't have it documented for our personal. We have to rely on others. So if we do have it right, then I would expect it possibly this next March or April.
Right. That verse that he is talking about, folks, I did an actual search on that to see if it had anything to do with Nibiru. And I'm talking about where Ahaz was with, excuse me, hold on. Yeah. Hezekiah, excuse me. I don't know why I said Ahaz. I'm trying to think of too many things at one time. What he just said, when the sun went back on the steps, this is the actual verse right here that you see. This is Isaiah 38:8, and it runs right through the word Nibiru, which is standing vertical in that. Also, I found the year in here, 2016, written backwards. So, what I did with Gill's timeline is I tried to go and see if I could find any correlation with that timeline. And this is one data point that hits spot on to that point. What he's talking about is when time went back 10 degrees, it went up 10 steps, as he's shown in his chart. Here it is in the codes, just as he said. It even gives a year, which is 2016, written backwards right there, Gill. I just kind of want to interject that because this proves with Bible code.
Let me help you out a little bit on that.
Okay.
Several other countries at the time changed their calendar within the next 5 years of that, because all of the other countries at that time had a 360-day year. Now, what happened is that this planet passed close enough to Earth where it caused us to tilt, which is the shadow going backwards on steps. I know in the King James it says a sundial, but that's not what it says in the Hebrew. The shadow went back on steps. A north to east swing would not have worked. All of the oceans would have emptied out onto the continents, and there's no mention of that. But a north to south tilt of 26 to 28 degrees has been proven 3 to 4 times in the Bible. And it passed close enough to where it drug Earth outward slightly, which would increase its diameter around the sun, giving us a longer period of year, which would give us 365.25 days. And this is documented outside the Bible in secular history, in several cultures, that everyone had to change their calendar to 365.25 days.
Yeah,
so,
and I like how you did that, Gill. I'm actually flipping through your charts now, looking for the chart that shows Hezekiah's steps.
I can show you the diagram right now. I have it in front of me.
Okay, that would be even better because I'm kind of stumbling through it.
Let's see right here. You able to see this or not?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Let's see right here. Hezekiah. This is Hezekiah right here.
And that's what he's talking about, folks. And that is what I just showed you in the codes, that it's encoded there. And not only that, this is pulled from one of the tables that Rabbi Gladerson did, because he showed you one that had out of Numbers, where it says, "I will see him, but not now; observe him, but not near. A star shall come out of Jacob, a scepter shall rise out of Israel, and shall smite the corners of Moab, and destroys all the sons of Sheth." And we're talking about the same thing here. This planetary body is the hand of the Creator. I mean, He created the universe, so it is His prerogative. It's His will to use whatever He does that will bring judgment and destruction. And the Word actually confirms it, folks.
It's the same way that He uses the moon and the sun to give us. It's a tool that He created, whether it gives you a blessing or a curse. Because remember when Joshua's long day happened, he used this to give them extra 12 hours to destroy their enemy, and it was a blessing to him. And only the meteors fell only on the enemy. None of the fiery hail fell on Joshua's men. So this item can be as a curse or as a blessing. Now, since I've made the charts, there's a new archaeological find that verifies what I'm saying.
Hezekiah's seal?
Yes, you see the seal right here on the side there. Let's see if we can find a larger picture of this right here. This is Hezekiah's seal. It's found just recently, and it shows a winged disc. Now, a lot of people say, "Oh, well, that's a pagan symbol."
All right, and what I was just trying to tell you before we had the little glitch there is that writing that's on that thing is Paleo-Hebrew. So that's an amazing find.
Correct. It's I think it's one of the only seals that they've ever found for Hezekiah.
Wow. And that was just recent that they just found this, huh?
Yes. It was a find that they didn't expect. They found it in the when the Muslims have cleared out some of the area. Well, actually, it's the southeast corner of the Temple Mount, off of the corner where around David's area, where they had I think a fire.
Yeah.
Burned a lot of scrolls, and what it did, it fired the clay, making it very hard. And that's how come we have it still, because the fire had to make it into a pottery, basically.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that is amazing. So, I mean, we got, and as he said, there's documented evidence with the Chinese and with the Nibiru disc that was found in Germany. I mean, there's all around the different expressions of different cultures have seen this thing. But what I wanted to get it into, folks, because this is not a debate of whether Planet X is real or not, or if other cultures have seen it, but what is exactly plasma discharge and electric universe. I mean, Gill, you were telling me last night that you were, a former welder. You know about plasma welders, arc welding, and things like that. Can you give us just a kind of an idea of what plasma is and what we're talking about here?
Well, plasma is the fourth state of matter. And yes, in the welding and the fabrication field, they use plasma to cut steel or stainless or any other type of metal, as long as it can conduct electrical current.
Electrical.
Yeah, electrical current, then it's able to be, plasma is able to be used to cut.
Yeah. Now, I can tell you, folks, so I've seen these torches cut through, solid sheets of steel. It'll turn this steel into liquid, and it liquefies it into molten steel with the intense heat that takes place. Now, why are we talking about this? This is the thing. Last year, as I said, Sighting Spring came by. There were these scientists we were following in the codes, and there were these scientists at the observatory Sighting Spring in Australia, and they were talking about the electric universe. Now, they were expecting a static discharge, a plasma discharge. They were not expecting a deep impact, which I had called it that way based on the word collides in the codes. We had also found plasma discharge. Now, I had no idea what that was. Paul Hansen at the Sighting Spring Observatory asked me. He said that he had talked to those scientists, and they were curious if I was searching the codes if plasma discharge was there, because that's what they were looking for. We found it. No direct hit on Mars. And so
I can
go ahead.
I can play the video if you want to. I I can play the video to show it to the audience if you want.
Yeah, that'll be good. So as he's setting that up, folks, what we're talking about here is this comet came by, and these scientists were anticipating some sort of discharge, and it actually happened. And the thing is, it was totally overshadowed by my mess up of saying it was going to be a deep impact, that we had actually had a predictive code, and we found out about this 18 months later when NASA actually confirmed that they did collide, that the atmospheres collided, and that is why there was a static discharge, because it's like a bolt of lightning flashed on Mars, and it lit it up like a light bulb. What you got here, Gill?
This is a segment off of my DVD that shows it. Let me just play it for you. It's about 1 minute and 49 seconds long.
Good. We don't have sound on this end, Gill, on this. Here we go.
That'd be electrical
Okay, hold on.
astronomy and physicists.
There we go. We got it now.
Physicists made a prediction just recently that when comet sighting springs pass near Mars, that if their theory that the comet tail was plasma, that'd be electrical discharge between the comet and Mars. And that's what we observed. Observation like that is science-based.
I looked into comet sighting springs passing by Mars that would confirm this theory. NASA was providing a live feed during its arrival back in October 2014 of this encounter between the two bodies. When it got a little too close, NASA cut the feed to this much further out angle. As you can see, this image is not all that great. Fortunately, I was able to find another angle from a different available video.
I remember when they cut the feed to it too, because we were following this really intensely.
Professor of medical sociology. He was located near on Mount Tide, National Park, Tenerife, Spain. He was able to record this interaction between sighting springs and Mars. What you're seeing is Mars light up like the sun after comet sighting springs' tail passes by, almost like that of an electromagnetic pulse. There was no major news media that covered this interaction. The only and closest article that I could find was given out by CNN titled, "Comet Sighting Spring Buzzes Mars, but NASA orbiters and rovers are safe."
Yeah.
Nothing else was talked about.
I was a little disappointed, Gill, because it was clear that we had in the codes plasma discharge. Then they actually film it, and it actually happened, and nobody talks about it. It wasn't a big deal in the electric universe, field where it was just flooding the mainstream. But I do remember, and I don't know why we got two pictures of me. Oh, you're showing a screen of me. Anyway, what we're talking about, he had a great graphic up in just a second. I'm going to show you. Here it is. This is what we're talking about here, folks, the plasma discharge. As this planetary body, it doesn't have to be a planetary body like Planet7x. This happens with comets. It happens with large rocks. Anything that has the charge, it will interact with planets. Now, the thing about it is, we've seen it happen on Mars. We've caught it on film. It's happened many times. There is evidence on Mars, and I'm going to bring up a picture here of Mars and the scars there, because this is what we're looking at happening when this comet comes by. It strikes the planet like a lightning bolt. Now, there are times, and you can see from the Marianas Trench they have here. I don't remember the exact science word for it, and I shouldn't be slipping on that. But this trench that we're looking at now, and you can see the strike point of where that happened. Now, Gill's got a graphic that we're going to look at in just a minute of Northwest Africa of the same kind of thing. Now, here's the theory. If Planet7x has come by the Earth, and it is believed that there has been a plasma discharge before, at least 2 or 3, maybe 4 times on the planet. This is one on Mars. Now, I want you to look at the way it is, and I'm going to put at the bottom of this video a couple of videos that I want you to look at about this scarred planet. That's what the video is called, and what happened here, because this plasma, like a torch, cut across Mars and gouged out all of that material and displaced it somewhere else. Now, that is amazing, because what you're looking at here is many times larger than the Grand Canyon. You can see a pattern here of a spiral. You can see how it spirals this way and back out that way. You can see the same pattern on the Earth. Gill's got a graphic and I've got one. I'm going to pull the one I got up first, and then Gill, I want you to pull up that one with Northwest Africa and show that. Actually, I'll let Google Earth go because the CPU was crashing. But there's one in Colorado. The video down at the bottom of this video we're doing covers that, and you'll be able to see it there. But Gill, can you bring that graphic up of Northwest Africa? Here we,
I have it up.
Okay, here we go. Let me just kind of move our pictures out of the way. And that's the point we're talking about right there. And Gill believes this is a clear indication of a plasma discharge. Now, it's happened on the Earth before. The place I'm talking about is on the other side in Colorado, Utah, and New Mexico, Arizona area. But yeah, look at that. And you can see as this chart shows, and I wish I could show you the ones in Colorado, but you could see those valleys and that design there. It looks kind of like lightning. That has a term, Lichtenberg, and what is the other? Dendritic patterns that cause from electric discharge. This is actual factual science, folks. Those terms, you get it, and they can reproduce it in a laboratory, this same pattern, because plasma on a molecular scale can be scaled to a galactic scale. So all the way down to those little lighters that you use to light your fireplaces that has the electric spark, that little tiny plasma spark, all the way to the graphic we just saw where Planet X and the Earth was in between a lightning bolt. Plasma is scalable to a galactic scale, folks, and what we're seeing here in the Richat structure is a 30-mile across bolt of lightning struck the Earth. That's a plasma discharge. Now, anybody that was on the Earth at that time, what do you think happened, Gill? If there was civilization, would they have known this on the other side of the Earth?
What it was, I think it was recorded by the Greeks. Whether or not they had ships that saw it or what, I'm sure half of the globe saw the event.
Yeah.
But I think it's the Greeks that said Zeus
with the lightning bolt.
Zeus would cast lightnings that would melt mountains.
And that's what this thing does, folks. That's my point. Plasma will melt mountains like butter, like wax, like the scripture says. He will. Go ahead.
On the northeast corner of this structure, it vaporized about 300 foot of a mountain area there.
Wow.
Remember, it's not digging. It's actually vaporizing the rock turning it into plasma form, and breaking the atoms down into elemental form, and it creates a micro dust, micro particles, and they can also be toxic in that form. But yes, it is recorded through history. I think this may have happened during the time of Hezekiah. I'm lacking the proof to say conclusively that is that, but I believe it is.
Wow. I was trying to bring up Google Earth because I was going to show it, but I had to close it out just a minute ago, folks, because my computer is overloading with everything I got open. But there is a huge spot in the area I was just talking about, and I've actually drove through that area. And if you look at this picture that he's got up, and you can see the different colors, and there's burn marks, and the same thing with Mars. There's actual areas that looks burned and scorching. Now, I've gone through the area in Colorado and Utah where this one scientist, Michael Steinbacher, who passed away, by the way, had this theory, plasma geology, formation from a plasma discharge. And these are some of the same scientists that were following Siding Spring and what was going on with Mars. And, you know, and I've been out there and I've seen the scorch marks in some of that rocks. And we're going to go out and get some footage of that sometime here in the next couple of weeks. And I'm going to show you what I'm talking about, because on scale, on a galactic scale, some of this, I mean, how long do you think this took for this crater to be formed, or even, you know, some of the gouging we see on Mars, Gill? Seconds? Does this happen in seconds?
No, it was in minutes. It was in minutes. Because at the speed this object would be traveling about 88,000 miles an hour, crossing our path. So it's only when the 2 points get close enough that charge is arcing, kind of like a welder's arc. As long as that distance is there, it is going to continue to arc until the span gets
greater, gets
too large for it to make the arc. But it's probably in minutes. Yeah,
minutes.
In minutes.
So my point here is, this cataclysmic event can happen in minutes and do immense damage. Not only a plasma discharge, but this planet is going to tilt some 1,800 miles, as Gill was telling me, with winds. How fast are these winds we're talking, Gill?
Well, if it tilts 26 to 28 degrees, that is just like it's been recorded at least 3 times in its past. Well, that's roughly 1,800 miles of its surface, and that would happen within about a 6-hour period. So if you do the calcs, that's roughly about 300 mile an hour movement, 300 miles moving every hour. Now, because of terrain, the winds on the continent shouldn't be as high as that. It should be anywhere from 150 to 300, somewhere in there. But on open oceans, you're going to have extreme high tidal waves, as well as the movement of the Earth moving in the direction that it's not used to. You have extreme flooding happening. It won't be a more or less tidal wave, but be more like a surge of water that will go 300 to 400, 500 miles inland in a north to south direction. You know.
Wow. I just wanted to read, Gill, as we were talking earlier, chapter 7, verse 1 of Revelation, where it talks about 4 angels that are dispatched to the 4 corners, and they are holding back the winds. And it says here, and after these things I saw 4 heavenly messengers standing on the 4 corners of the world, holding the 4 winds of the world, that the wind should not blow on the world or the sea or on any tree. That sounds like the planet actually stops when that happens. So we're talking about reversing its direction, or just stopping?
When we start to enter the tail of the plasma, remember the plasma of the there's 3 tails basically on a comet. There's your debris field that follows the direction of its movement, the path of its movement. Then there's a dust trail, and then there's a plasma tail. The plasma tail always points opposite of the sun. The dust tail is in between the plasma and the debris field. So when this gets in between us and the sun, well, then the plasma is hitting directly Earth. It's causing like an eclipse, a darkening of the sun, but we're entering into the plasma. And this would take about 24 to 28 hours for us to clear that plasma stream. So as we're entering deeper and deeper into that plasma, our rotational speed is slowing down by 3.5 to 4.5%, compounded hourly. Within a 24-hour period, Earth will come to a gradual stop, completely stopped in its rotational. And this is where the astronomers, because they are using a gravity model and they're not using the physicist model, this is where they'll make the prediction of the wrong half of the Earth being hit. They will predict Europe, Asia, and Africa side of Earth, which is 2/3 of the continental crust. But after a 12-hour rotational delay, it causes the other side to be hit, which is North and South America. As the biblical text says, 1/3 of grass, trees, and later it mentions 1/3 of the rivers.
Yeah.
North and South America is 1/3 of the continental crust. Only 1/2 of the globe can be hit by a meteor shower at any given time because it's spherical in shape.
There you go. You know, and there's several places in Revelation, folks, and I've been one that follows Wormwood. Now, Wormwood has a connection to this planetary body. I can't say that it is Wormwood, but I think it's the cause of it. I think it's the what brings in this because we're not just talking about just Planet 7x. I mean, there's other bodies that are with this, right, Gill? Or am I hearing that wrong? Are there other planetary bodies with it?
There is no data to support that at the moment.
Really?
Now, that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It's just that I can't say it because I've found no supporting data to support such a claim.
Okay.
The Chinese had a very good look at it. I mean, it didn't come as close as Hezekiah. Neither does Hezekiah or them mention multiple objects.
Okay.
So if there is, they're very small, and there'd be a moon, not planet, because this is not a solar system, as some say. Because if this was a star, let's say, a dwarf star, we wouldn't be here right now. Because it's already come close enough to tilt us 3 times. It would have captured us and drug us right out into deep space. It's a planet.
Wow.
Similar in magnetic field as Earth would be, and opposite poles attract. I have a graph that shows this.
So it's like 2 magnets pulling on each other.
Yes, opposite poles attract. That's why it won't flip 180 degrees. It's not the way magnets work. They will attract. They will tilt towards each other about 26, 28 degrees.
Wow.
The only way that it'll go even 90 degrees is if they would almost touch. Because they are apart, they will only come to one part of that tilt. About 26 to 28 degrees it has happened.
Interesting.
Happened in the past.
Interesting.
And because of this rotation, if you look at my chart that I have up, my graph, you need to be at the pivot point. The pivot point of rotation, the biblical text is alluding, will be around the Middle East when the Earth starts to tilt. Well, that's where the winds won't be. The winds will be minimum, almost non-existent. But if you're 90 degrees from that point of pivot, which is the east coast of America or all of South America and Australia, you're looking at the highest winds of 150 to 300 mile an hour winds, and the highest seas.
Wow.
Inland, ocean waters trying to cover the continents. They will go 300 to 500 miles inland.
Wow. Yeah, and that's based on, because folks, with the centrifugal force, there's a lot of water around the equator, and as this happened, that water is going to go where it's going to go, and it's going to come in on all coasts several hundred miles.
Let me help you a little bit on that. On the equator, there's about 12 kilometers of a bulge of water at the equator.
Wow.
When Earth starts to slow down, okay, it would take probably 3 weeks for water to dissipate and go all the way to the north and south pole. Remember, it took 40 days for the Earth to get even flooded. For like this water to separate that far to go north to the North Pole would take weeks, many weeks. You only have a 24-hour period.
Yeah.
That this Earth is stopping before it starts picking up spinning again. So you only have a partial coastline of flooding pertaining to the bulge of water.
Wow.
It will not be as drastic as some people make it appear. It's not lightning quick. Water takes a while for it to recede. And so what is more threatening is when this thing tilts, every island and continent and mountain is going to shift. They will have a different GPS location when this is over with. Then it takes 6 hours for it to come back up. So you have the winds and waters going the opposite direction. when Earth is trying to straighten out, and it can come between 4 to 7 degrees from where it was prior. It won't necessarily go to the exact point that it was before. But in other words, northern Canada would be in the Arctic zone, or maybe the new North Pole, for a period of time. So all of their nuclear power plants, their water system would probably freeze, would instantly freeze, because they're not used to those winds being 150 miles an hour at freezing temperatures. It would freeze things instantly, like steel, you name it, all kind of items, vegetation, everything, animals would be instantly frozen. Remember the mammoths in Siberia? They had woolly rhinoceros and woolly mammoths that were all herds of them.
Yeah.
Were instantly frozen. Well, they got caught in the tilt when it came over northern Russia, and they were instantly frozen.
With the food still in the mouth.
Yes, and there were subtropical plants, warmer climate plants. You're going to see this again. This is going to happen again with different animals, but it's going to happen again.
We're also going to have hailstones that are going to rain down. Now, I was mentioning earlier about wormwood, and that is chapter 8. And this is different things going on in Revelation, but by the time you get to chapter 17, it says here, and there came one of the 7 heavenly mangers who had 16, verse 21. I don't know why I have my finger on that. And there fell upon men a great hail out of the Shamayim, every stone about a weight of a talent, and men blasphemed Yahuwah because of the plague of the hail, and for the plague it was exceedingly great. So even in chapter 17, several chapters after 8, we are seeing things rain down on the earth. Gill was just talking about Sodom and Gomorrah and Joshua's long day. And what happened there with...
we have some new evidence for that too as well. Some new archaeological evidence that they found just recently.
Really? I think I saw you posting an update on Facebook with some stuff.
Right. They found the actual site of Sodom and Gomorrah. Remember how I had made I had connected the dots that Lot's wife was vaporized, and it was man's description when they came back looking for her. When they saw her shadow, they obviously said she was turned to a stone. And remember how the angel said, we can't destroy the city unless you get to a place of safety, a certain distance away. Well, they found the old town of Sodom and Gomorrah. There's Steve Collins of the Trinity University. He's an archaeologist that studied the biblical text, and he said that the text does not describe it being south of the Dead Sea. That it actually describes it being north of the Dead Sea in a circular valley region. And so he started looking for it, and he actually found it.
Wow!
And this is where it is. It's on the side of Jordan, north of the Dead Sea, called Tel Haman. And this is it right here. This is the old, debris field of Solomon and
Gomorrah,
because it was about 55 acres big. It's one of the largest cities of the time period. They had estimate, and it's I think the largest city that's ever been found for that time.
Wow!
And they did some artist rendering of what they found, and this is the site right here, showing the dig, and they found the gate where the 2 angels walked through.
Wow!
And where Lot met them. Now, what's interesting is that the southern corner of this town, the houses were blown off of their foundation by something of some sort of explosion. Then there's a layer of ash. They even found skeletons where people were thrown against the wall so violently it shattered their bones. And the people lie dead just as where they were. They were partly vaporized. They found what led them to believe that it's a meteor or a comet that exploded over the town. Besides the ash, they found pottery fragments that turned to glass. The clay was fired at a super high temperature and cooled very, very quickly. The outside of the pottery, only on the side facing the blast, turned to glass. And it has a certain name, and you only find it at like a nuclear site, like an atomic bomb site, where it takes sand and turns it into glass.
Yeah.
This is the same type of structure right here they found.
Yeah.
So they were able to estimate that this was a comet or a meteor that destroyed the town, just as we said over a year and a half ago. And are you able to see this right in this picture?
We can see that.
Well, what's interesting, at this same site, they found the world's oldest homosexual couple in the ruins.
Wow.
Proving out what the Bible was saying all along. Again.
2 male skeletons laying there, and that's how they died, folks.
Yep.
That's how they died. In their sin. That's how they were destroyed, just like you see them.
5,000-year-old. So most people made a grave error in not taking the biblical stories more factual. Maybe we were lacking some of the science to explain this about 15 years ago. Because 15 years ago, we tried to do these calculations. We would fail because we used a gravity-ruled universe.
Yeah.
Gravity-ruled universe doesn't calculate well at all. But the plasma or electromagnetic universe, all of this is calculating correct.
Yeah.
And they didn't know the science. Okay, only with a gravity-ruled universe, a magnetic-ruled universe, can the Earth tilt, and that the plasma tail can cause the Earth to slow down in its rotation. All of the symptoms that they said right here in the storylines prove out with the same model. The same model we found in the Chinese, Japanese, and Korean records. We do an overlay to the biblical records, and it proves it out. The model is exact.
Yeah. I've seen them, and I could see where you put a lot of time in researching this and looking for the evidence there. And that's what I was talking about, looking for the evidence of this coming by before. We're seeing in the Bible, we're seeing places like Northwest Africa and places in the Southwest where is apparent there's some sort of plasma. And I said on a video promoting this interview last night about the Grand Canyon and how I felt like it was probably created in a matter of, I said seconds, but as you said, it probably was minutes that all this gouging and plasma discharge takes place. This blows out of the water the evolutionist theory that the Earth and everything took millions and millions and millions of years to develop. And, I was one that thought that what I saw in Colorado when I drove through there probably happened during the flood with the washing away of water very quickly. I think Kent Hovind did an experiment where he showed that those kind of canyons and things can be formed with a huge amount of water rushing in and washing away debris. Now I'm kind of believe that it happened with a plasma discharge based on the research I've seen on Dr. Steinbacher's research.
I actually believe that it's
really.
both. I believe the plasma carved about half of the canyon out in depth until it hit the earthen dam that was holding back the water. When it hit that dam, it released the water, and the water did the other half of the carving.
Wow.
So I think we have multiple events that are overlapping, and that's what I believe.
That's an amazing theory, you know, and it could very well be, because there was something that caused an effect of this event that took place, whether it manifests with plasma discharge and actually opening up the earth and releasing water out of it. You know, only Yahuwah knows these kind of secrets, but we're seeing the scientific evidence of biblical truth in this, folks. So, you know, and I know they've been talking about Nibiru and, you know, all the Anunnaki and all that stuff with Zechariah Stitchin, but don't let things convolute the facts of what's going on here, because you will see that in everything. Even when I'm doing Bible codes, you'll have others that will come in to sow misinformation or to bring their own theories or opinions to it, and they, you know, and it kind of dilutes what I'm doing here, or you know, even when they're showing things that are not necessarily thought out or researched, and it seems to contradict. That is the whole plan, and I think that's what we got with Zechariah Stitchins and his interpretation of the Sumerian tablets about these Anunnaki. Now, I'm not saying there weren't some Sumerian tablets. This came from the sons of Shem in Samaria. So this actually came from the Bible. It didn't come from the Sumerians. Shem came from Noah. The Sumerians came from Shem. So they got the flood story from Noah's son. There wasn't, because some people say, well, how do you got the Sumerian text outdates the Bible? So how do you reconcile it? That's how. This was a son of Shem. The sons of Shem were telling the story, and that's how you got the Sumerian text of what was going on. So let's be clear about that.
Also, if I can help you out on one point here, there was a flood, a local flood, slightly before Noah's time. It was the flood of Cain, and you can see it here at the beginning. That was a local flood, a river flood, and it killed a third of the population at the time. Okay, and some people mix that flood with the global flood, which is Noah's flood, but they're not to be mixed up, and that might be the flood that the
Sumerians get it.
Ancient Sumerians are mentioning, but people don't realize they had fictional tales all throughout history. Fiction is not a modern thing. You have to determine, can you put science and back up what they're saying? The answer is no. And then this claim for 3,600. See, all of the Sumerian tablets are numbered and labeled. And it's quite easy when you find something important that say on tablet such and such, on the right, left corner, whatever, that it says this. Stitchin never qualified where he found 3,600
and that's my
years.
point. Now, this was a man that was taking, you know, evidence and mixing in his own interpretation, his own truth into it, and now we've convoluted and diluted the bigger picture of what's really going on. And then, you know, people were, that's Anunnaki, that's Stitchin. You know, Nibiru's not in the Bible, and I just showed you Nibiru is coded there. Darla was just showing me earlier about the Ethiopic text. They talk about the throne of Yahuwah, the throne of God, and in the word there is very similar to Nibiru in Ethiopic. So they were, ancient people were calling the throne of El Nibiru. So that's really interesting that they were using that word in Ethiopic text, not just Sumerian, Ethiopic. This is Africa.
Ethiopia, yep. We also have another archaeological find that's been sitting in the London Museum, I believe, for many centuries, and well, at least a century or so. And this was during Babylon. Remember the Tower of Babel, and now we can prove a little bit better that it was a meteor or our planet. If you look at this object that they found, it shows three large sun-like objects at the top of this tower, which is the Tower of Babel. And they're all equal size. They're not, so they had misidentified one of them as the moon and one as the sun. The other one has to be a planet also, or some type of planet for it to be equal to that size. And this is exactly what our Planet 7x would be looking like if it was at a given distance. And there's three sun-like objects right there. Because the moon and the sun are equivalent in size visually. And that's the only thing that needed to represent here is the other object was also visually equal to the same size. And they show it in this clay tab because it was important. Something happened.
That's right. That's right.
And,
so that's a good point. So other civilizations are documenting in the way that they could, and was brought this evidence of something that's happened that you can show a pattern and measure in tests, like Gill was saying. If you could prove it in a laboratory, that's science. So that's what we're talking about here. These patterns of these models and the evidence of these clay tablets of discharges on the earth, all these things that we put together to surmise what may be coming.
What's interesting, John, I think you also know ancient Hebrew, don't you?
Yeah, my wife studies and knows Paleo Hebrew. She's very fluent in that, and she's teaching me. But I'm in biblical Hebrew. Okay. So it's yeah.
All right. Well, the first letter to Hebrew alphabet is the Aleph, and it was represented in ancient Hebrew as an ox head, with an ox with horns. Right. Well, remember Nim. Now you also know that Aleph represents the Almighty as well, like a mighty figure. Another. Well, look at the crown that's on Nimrod in this picture right here. It's a crown with horns. Sure is. Representing that he's the Almighty. He's wearing the crown of horns, as it's represented in ancient Hebrew. So the symbolism there also represents something pretty important.
Yeah, and I'm glad you had these slides and stuff together, because my equipment wasn't cooperating, but we prevailed in this. Gill, you got any other charts you want to show us? Because we're coming up on a time limit now.
Okay. One of the other ones I wanted to bring to you attention was there's an ancient city found off the west coast of Cuba that it's submerged under 2,300 feet of water. And they can't explain how that city got there. Well, if you look at what my model on what I showed on how Cuba used to touch the southern part of South America and the tip of the Yucatan, these are either Aztec or Mayan ruins, which are now part of the western part of Cuba. And they won't be able to explain that, not in the level, like how did it get there that deep? Because after the crater, it simply collapsed. The edge of the crater collapsed a little bit, and that town went further down in depth. And so we can piece together enough evidence that puts all of this together. And just like I was telling you earlier, that the Gulf of Mexico is the world's largest crater, and the only way for life to exist with such a large crater, because there's two levels of heat. There's a frequency that goes out that vaporizes all carbon molecules. Well, that's animal, plant life, and humans. The only way that this crater could exist is if it was under flooded Earth conditions, because it would absorb the heat.
Wow.
And this is the only other way that the moon could be formed. You can look at the moon right here at the bottom. It shows how it's pieced together in big layers. 71% of our continental crust was knocked off on the opposite side of Earth, and that's where the water receded. The water receded that made our ocean.
Wow.
And the only way that life could exist is if the Earth was flooded and Noah was on a boat. So you have a logic triangle you can't beat. Each one of those 3 to 4 points had to exist simultaneously for that crater and that impact, and for the moon to exist.
Yeah, and I know from watching the research I was looking at last night about Mars, they suspect the same kind of thing with Mars, that a lot of, like Phobos was a part of Mars, that it was actually gouged out with a plasma discharge and now is a moon, that there was crust actually removed from Mars. The top hemisphere is less dense than the bottom hemisphere of Mars.
What's interesting about 94% of all of its craters, you see the impact, is in the southern half of Mars.
Right.
And that is because the southern half crossed the debris field. Not the entire planet crossed the debris, only the southern half. And now it's at about a 1.5 degree higher orbit because it bumped into it. You can see the bruise where it bumped into it, a perfectly concave bruise, if you want to call it.
Yeah.
On the opposite side of that
Wow.
scar, you can see it.
Yeah. So heavy things to consider, folks. Not trying to spread fear here. I'm trying to be, truthful with you. I mean, the government are digging tunnels. They're making preparations. You should be making preparations. Do not listen. I'm all for a rapture, but don't depend on that being your only option. You need to prepare for terrible things coming on this earth. Okay? So it's not about trying to scare people. It's being real with you. There are real things happening in this world that can be confirmed, that can be shown in the codes. And the codes are just recently, we're batting 1,000 again, based on the information that came back. The codes showed it happened. It's also showing that this Planet7x, Nibiru wormwood, is very real, and it's out there somewhere. They're chemtrailing and trying to hide that from you. You need to wake up. Gill, you got anything else before we close it out, brother?
I'd like to mention that wormwood is actually a large meteor that hits Earth on the second event, 152 days later. Okay, that is from the debris field. Okay, that's why it's the size of a mountain, because the planet is many times larger than a mountain. Okay, so that's in March, the planet passing, but 152 to 150 days later is where wormwood hits the Earth. It hits it so hard that Earth wobbles like a drunkard, like a hut in the wind, and every island and mountain.
That's Isaiah 24, folks. If you want to go and check that out, and I'm going to compile all the scripture that I think pertains to this event and day in another broadcast. But Gill, thank you for being my guest today and giving us some information and updating us, folks. Gill's been sick and took the time to do this with me, and I really appreciate that. Gill, thank you, brother.
Well, thank you for having me, and it's a pleasure.
All right. Gill Broussard, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye, Jonathan.
All right, so that was Gill Broussard with us today. Folks, we're looking at, again, Mars, the surface here. Now, the reason why I'm taking the time at the end of this video to splice in what I wasn't able to show you on Google Earth. Also, because I want to read a couple of other things in Enoch that pertain. And I realize that some of you may have not read Enoch. So there's some of this that you possibly are wondering, why is he talking about Enoch? Guys, Enoch was shown everything that was going to happen. He makes mention of some things that go hand in hand with Daniel and Revelation. Let me just read what I want to read, and then I'll show you what I'm going to show you on Mars and on our own planet. In the second vision which he saw, the vision of wisdom, which Hanok, the son of Yared, the son of Malahalel, the son of Canaan, the son of Enosh, the son of Shet, the son of Adam, saw. And this is the beginning of the words of wisdom, which I lifted up my voice to speak and to say those things which dwell on to those that dwell on the earth. Hear, you men of old, see ye that come after. He's talking about the people of the end times here. The set apart ones, which I speak before Yahuwah Sabaoth. It were better to declare to them, to the men of old time, to those who come after, what will be withhold in the beginning of wisdom. Till the present day, such wisdom has never been given by Yahuwah Zavaot, as I received according to my insight, according to the good pleasure of Yahuwah Zavaot, by whom the lot of eternal life was given to me. Now 3 parables are imparted to me, and I lifted up my voice and recounted them to those that dwell on the earth. He's talking to us here, folks. When the congregation of the righteous shall appear, and the sinners shall be judged for their sins, and shall be driven from the face of the earth. And when the righteous one shall appear before the eyes of the righteous, when the chosen works hang upon Yahuwah Zavaot, the light shall appear to the righteous and the chosen who dwell on the earth. When then will the dwelling of the sinners, and where the resting place of those who denied Yahuwah Zavaot, it had been good for them that had not been born, when the secrets of the righteous shall be revealed, and the sinners judged, and the godless driven from the presence of the righteous and chosen. From that time that those that possess the earth shall no longer be powerful and exalted, for they shall not be able to behold the face of the set apart. For Yahuwah Sabaoth has caused his light to appear on the face of the set apart, righteousness and chosen. Then shall the kings of the mighty perish, and be given into the hands of the righteous and the set apart. And thenceforth none shall seek for themselves mercy from Yahuwah Sabaoth, for their life is at an end. This planet's going to be judged. Now, one thing that Gill pointed out in Joshua's longest day, when hail, firestorm rained down on the enemies of Israel, almost like precision warheads of our military, just kind of zero in. That's what they did to the enemy. Not one Jew, not one Israeli was hit. I'm saying that because there are those that are going to go through this, that are going to make it through this. It says it in the Word. It says it in the Word. It says 2/3 of the earth is going to be consumed by fire. Go and read Isaiah 24, folks. It hasn't happened yet, and it's coming. And I'm showing you a model and evidence of something that's possibly going to take place. When we talk about consuming fire, something that consumes a mountain, it will melt like wax. You can't even imagine that. So people say, oh, that's got to be spiritual. That's not literal. No, it's literal, folks. This image you're seeing is a discharge from a lightning bolt. Plasma discharge. This is much greater than the Grand Canyon. This almost scars the whole one side of Mars. So imagine, this goes probably in perspective from the west coast of Africa to, Chile. I mean, it's huge. Now, this is what I wanted to show you in the broadcast, and it wasn't able to do that. And where did it go? Right here, Google Maps. This area right here, folks. Now, I want you to see, and then this may not make sense unless you watch the Thunderbolts documentary, because these patterns that we're talking about, the Dandridge and the I should have wrote the Fruchtenbaum, I think it is. Patterns. Anyway, you'll see in the documentary, these are the same patterns. It's the very same patterns in Mars, particularly this scalloping that happens right here in this area. There's this scientist that you'll see talks about this particular scar. And this is scarring on our own planet, excuse me, our very own country. And I think some of you are going to be surprised at where this is, because I haven't revealed that yet. Visually, I did in the broadcast here, but you can see it's a round area. This is absolutely, in the scientist theory, this is exactly where the plasma bolt struck, and it dragged, so it pulled, and all of these tributaries and things like that that you see happened in a matter of minutes. All this stuff, and it can be replicated in a laboratory, folks. This is not science fiction. This is real. This area and all the mountains, all the valleys, all the canyons, all of this for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles happened with the hand of Yahuwah when he caused plasma to rain down. This is the fire of Yahuwah. Okay? So I'm going to back it out just to give you a perspective of what this is. This is the four corners in this area of Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and Mexico. So what are you saying here, Code Searcher? All of this patterns you see here, this leoparding pattern, all the way down to where, and you can see this circle there, and this bleeding off to one side. All of this can be replicated to scale in a laboratory with plasma. That means it is a high probability that all of these mountains and valleys and canyons came from a plasma discharge. And it even has the spiral pattern on Mars that I showed you before. And let me show you. If this is the central point, and you'll see this as well in that documentary, the spiral pattern goes up in this way and back down and that way, like a spiral galaxy. And here is the direct hit, right there, direct hit. So these Rocky Mountains that supposedly took thousands and thousands and thousands of years to develop, Yahuwah did it in a matter of minutes. I think it's seconds, but Gill thinks it's more minutes. That looks like a bolt instead of an arcing like the scar on Mars. That's an awesome thought, folks. This blows the evolution hoax out of the water. And it could happen again very soon with the passing of this planet, because this is what took place. Gill also showed us one in northwest Africa. There's another area, and I think that's it right there, if I'm not mistaken. I may be wrong, but it's a vast area. Anyway, it's happened before, and it could be 2 other places on Earth. If we can't find them, I said, well, where would we be looking? It would probably be on the upper hemisphere, and it could be a water hit as well, Gill thinks. So we may see evidence of that on the bottom of the sea floor in such a spiral pattern. I kind of looked at this area and thought maybe, but I'm not sure. That's speculation here on that. But it's an awesome thought, folks. This Earth has been struck by a plasma discharge, at least since, that we can tell from evidence, from visual evidence, at least twice before. And there you go. If you like the video or the content, You don't necessarily have to like me. Subscribe. Give me a thumbs up. Share the video and tell your friends. We gotta get the word out because if you haven't been following this channel, folks, something very amazing happened in the past couple of weeks. It's been really exhilarating for me. It's reigniting a passion in research, and that's why I said in the broadcast I felt like what Enoch must have felt like on a certain scale of all the things that he's been showing me. Now this is, I believe, solid. I'm confident in that. We will see some earth changes. They are buying land in the interior and in the mountains where I am, because I'm actually in this area. The government's got underground bunkers, and I've seen them. I've seen an entrance to one. I'm trying to get to one soon and get some information to you, show you. This is not a joke. And I've seen reports, I don't know that it be true, there's a whole catacomb of superhighways under the United States, a whole nother United States underground. Why? It's because of what I'm telling you, folks. And I may look like a wacky YouTuber talking about doomsday stuff, but that's okay. I'm trying to show you science and prove to you the Bible and the prophecies therein are accurate and true. And this world is going to be judged. Not just America, the whole world. America is just one of the focal points that I'm on because I'm in America. There are other countries there in the matrix as well that are going to be judged. So, He will bless you and keep you. I think God is going to try to get a